What's a book everyone should read at least once in their lives? Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. My first thought when I saw the question, really nothing else has come to mind, and I've read a lot of important books. I mean, what does it mean to say everyone should read a book? It has to be a book that will improve anyone's life. Since everyone is almost guaranteed to suffer greatly, it makes sense that a book that explores how to be in hell and still find something to live for would meet that criterion. All Quiet on the Western Front. Everyone should have to reckon with the reality of what war actually means. I would also say the other books by Remarque are also worth a read, especially The Road Back, which is the sequel to All Quiet on the Western Front. It deals with the boys left behind and they try to learn what life outside of war is. I found is just as if not more powerful than the first. A Driver's Education Manual. Friends, there is such a thing as blinkers. Your like and subscription will really help my channel. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Such a great book. I love this book because it's about a real rock and roller of the classics world. It is lengthy but has revenge, treasure, plots and schemes, and illegal substances. There is nothing stuffy about this classic. Johnny's Got His Gun. It's so intense, but it's so good. Metallica's Song 1 is based off this book. Guy has his arms and legs blown off, goes blind and deaf, and is left to live like that. I only read it once, but it's forever ingrained into my memory. It hits you like a freight train. Gonna say The Road by Cormac McCarthy because people need to be reminded of the thin veneer of civilization and not take it for granted. Night by Elie Wiesel. It is absolutely heart-wrenching, and I hated every moment of reading it, which is exactly the effect it is supposed to have. We read this book in 5th grade, and I am grateful that these stories of courage and injustice were imprinted on me from a young age. Not a particular novel, but an author, Kurt Vonnegut. He has a way of stating truths about humanity in a way that is so direct and beautifully simple. For example, the short story Harrison Bergeron is a great start and wouldn't require committing to an entire book. I do think it is less humorous than most of his other work, but I love it in a different way. The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster. A great philosophy book disguised as a children's book. So much in this book is ideal to help children set up their brain to ask questions all the time. Announcement for a lot of people reading this thread. Many of the books mentioned here are in the public domain and in audiobook form. Go through YouTube, Random House, and Overdrive for all the classical goodness you want. It almost totally eliminates the financial or time commitment that many will cite for not picking them up. Also, I listen to books on double speed all the time. The Giver by Lois Lowry. That book made my 10-year-old mind really think about what was important in society. It was the first time the idea of good things having a negative consequence was presented to me. I think what makes it work is that we are learning how this whole society really works alongside a character who has lived in it his whole life. As the facade of the utopian society begins to fall away to show devastating consequences of the perfect life in society, the reader not only feels their shock, but the main character's shock. This was a book I read in school 4 times and then in college sociology classes. This book written for teenagers made for great discussions. The Grapes of Wrath or Of Mice and Men. Both are heartbreaking, but not for the sake of being heartbreaking. Instead, they provide a glimpse of how freaking hard life can be, but also how beautiful it can be. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Adams has one of the unique voices in writing. Almost no one writes like him. I read it in high school and thought it was the funniest book ever. I'm in my 40s and I feel like some jokes aren't as funny as I've gotten older, but there are things I look at in a new way. Flowers for Algernon. I have the same disability that Charlie Gordon has in the book, which is one of the many reasons why it is one of my favorite reads. It is incredible how far medicine has come in just a few decades. My brain hasn't been damaged in any way, and I just finished a master's degree. It's pretty wild to think that even if I were born about 10 years earlier, I would very likely not be in the same place I'm in today. Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. He had an incredible insight into the human soul, and this book will stick with you for a long time. This is a wonderful crime novel complemented by philosophy. Also, The Brothers Karamazov. In Slaughterhouse-Five, Vonnegut said it could teach everything that we needed to know about life, except that wasn't enough anymore. The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Everyone should read it at least once in a year or two. It's really nice to watch your perception of life changing through the time. This book can help you on that stream of consciousness path. My dad always told us that it was really important to read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie before we turn 18 years old. I am 29, and I have still not read it, by the way, but my dad says it's good. The Hobbit. It's just such a nice book. If you haven't read this yet and start, a word of advice. If it starts to drag, hold out for Gandalf to come back. Everything always picks up when Gandalf comes back. Your like and subscription will really help my channel. Thanks a lot for the donations.